A new representative for El Paso's District 2 City Council seat. Jim Tolbert won the special election handedly this past Saturday. Tolbert ran against 7 other candidates but won 59% of the vote, avoiding a runoff election. Larry Romero held the seat before he resigned, citing health issues after he suffered a stroke in February and amidst an ethics investigation. And joining us now is Jim Tolbert. Hi, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Congratulations on your big victory. I mean, it's almost unheard of to have 8 candidates in a race and have one get almost 60% of the vote and avoid a runoff.
Works for me.
Yeah. So, what's your first order of business?
Well, I think the first order of business is just to try to focus on some very major issues, issues about quality of life, issues about economic development, and get those things started and moving again. We've been stagnant for a couple of years, and I think we need to really start moving on it. The other ones have to do with accountability in the city, accountability by the city manager, accountability with the open records request process. We need to make sure all that's going, and that way to have transparency. And then in my district, one of the things I heard as I went campaigning all over the place, and it's a large district, is that people said, don't forget us. So we want to make sure that we get out there, we get into every single area, that we have meetings in every single area, and start working with people throughout the district.
You know, you filed an ethics complaint against former city rep Larry Romero and the current city manager Tommy Gonzalez. He's expected to have a hearing on that next month with the Ethics Commission. How's it going to work now, working directly with him? Now you're essentially going to be one of his bosses, and you have this, this history. You filed a complaint against him. How are you going to approach that relationship so that it's productive?
Well, I intend to be as professional as I can be. I'll be professional, and I'll take the high road. Certainly that the Ethics Commission, I believe, meets on June 1st, and whatever they decide will be the decision, I think, that we have to move forward on. As I've prepared to take office on Monday or Tuesday, there's been so much help from the municipal clerk's office, the human resources office, IT. A lot of, unfortunately, some of the questions we have to do with our discretionary budget and hiring, and or how much money we have in order to hire someone else. And we were planning on meeting with Mr. Cortinas to get some of those answers.
The budget director.
Right, to get some of those answers. And Mr. Gonzalez told him that he could not speak with me until after I'm sworn into office. So that doesn't help with the transition. And I don't know if that bodes well, but because I think we both need to act professionally.
I mean, do you think that was personal, or do you think that was a matter of process?
Well, Mr. Cortinas and I had an appointment together set for 10 o'clock this morning, and then he was told not to meet with me, and when he does meet with me, he's supposed to bring Nancy Bartlett with him. So, there's already that kind of, I'm going to call it gamesmanship that's going on, and it shouldn't be happening. We need to act professionally. We need to care about the city of El Paso and about District 2.
Okay, well, we'll definitely call the City of El Paso for comment on that to get the other side of the story. But a lot of work to do. The El Paso Times has said this is a city council with no direction, that's not holding the city manager accountable. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that the city reps right now essentially in some cases lack the backbone, some would say, to do what's right?
Well, without talking to my fellow council members, I don't know exactly what their motivation might be. But I think that we need to get moving on this issue with the city manager. I think there cannot be any more postponements to the Ethics Commission meeting. we need to get that resolved, and then City Council must act.
You know, there's a group of the population, and maybe they're a minority because we don't hear from them a whole lot. But you know, throughout covering City Council, I have heard from people who defend the city manager and who say, you know, he saved a ton of money.
Right.
There's just, you know, last week they announced $10 million in savings to be used for
Right.
the Mexican American Cultural Center. He's efficient, and a lot of people say Larry Romero, that something was made, that it was made to be a bigger deal than it really was. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that I think it was a big deal, you know, especially when you do some things to try to remove one investment firm and bring in another one, or when you try to change the configuration of streets that are supposed to be paved. I think there's some bigger issues out there, and maybe some things to take a look at. You know, and it's not simply the ethics issue that I'm concerned about with the city manager. I'm also concerned about his leadership style. There's a lot of micromanagement. I know that a lot of city employees are finding it very difficult to do anything unless he gives the go-ahead. And we've had, in the last 2 years, we've had stagnation. So, I mean, he might find $10 million, but the opportunity costs that the city and others might have could be a lot more than that. We've piled up, you know, we've lost a lot of time and a lot of opportunity for economic development during this period of stagnation. And if you have that leadership style that says you can't do anything unless, you know, I give my imprimatur on it, then you're going to hold up that process. And I think we need to get things moving on.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know a lot of people will be watching closely as you take office. Thank you so much, Jim.
You bet. Good to see you. Thank you.